Thick descriptions disrupts traditional educational methods. And why do we do that? Because we want to help humans thrive where they are, building better communities. One way that we do that is the Elephant in the Room Unboxed, where we give our audience members the tools and the resources to have those uncomfortable conversations and do it in a humane and anthropological way. We're doing this in partnership with Respect Diversity, another organization that is committed to doing the work with us. Each episode will have a different host and a different guest talking about uncomfortable conversations or uncomfortable topics and giving you the resources of how to navigate them. Let's get uncomfortable.
I am Dr. Noel Jacobs. I am a health service psychologist, and I am executive director of the Respect Diversity Foundation here in Oklahoma City. Today we are interviewing Reverend T. Sheri Amore Dickerson of Oklahoma City, head of Black Lives Matter OKC, and several other professional nonprofit hats.
And I am Reverend T. Sheri Amore Dickerson. I am currently serving as the executive director of Black Lives Matter OKC. I work with Women's March National and am a proud member of the Northeast Oklahoma City Renaissance community.
Good morning.
Good morning.
It is very good to see you again.
Ditto.
So I know you well, but our audience may not have heard you before or seen you. Please tell us about yourself and what you do.
It's always the trickiest question for me because I don't exactly know what to say, because I consider myself very simplistic. I am a third generation pastor's kid who learned about the world of being a servant and community service from some of my icons, and those were who are now my ancestors, my papa, my mima, my mom, and my dad. And so I live my life just basically trying to make them proud, making sure that I am lifting from the bottom, as they taught me, to make sure that we don't leave anyone behind. And love is my foundational core. So taking care of the community is instinctive for me. That is who I am, just that girl.
And you became that girl here in Oklahoma, I think, even though you spent time elsewhere?
I did. I went to the Millwood public schools. Actually, they were independent and private at that time. So I am a proud Mighty Falcon, a class of 91. I started off in the foster care system. I am a very fortunate adoptee, but also one that has roots with her family biologically, and my chosen family. So Oklahoma will always be home.
And this is where you've received a whole lot of your messages about who we are in relation to each other and who has space, who has to ask, beg, or fight for space.
Been learning about space since the day I got into the foster care system. It's probably one of the things that was very formative in my daily existence and how I live and how I navigate.
So when we talk about space, we also talk about the idea of maintaining it over time. Sustainability, the idea that resources and community and presence can be maintained in a positive way, grow to the space that it needs to be. What is sustainability to you? And what does creating space for Black sustainability mean to you?
Well, in a state where space was stolen and taken, the lessons that have been taught to us, and not always accurate as far as the history of why our flagship university is called the Sooners, which is literally disrespectful to our original Americans and my Native and Indigenous friends and family as myself, because I'm also Indigenous. Holding space has become important. And the vie for space is a daily task that many people in this state and in this nation um, literally vie for every day. The Black community, certainly we are not monolithic. So what space and sustainability looks like for each of us is always very different.
Mm.
For me, it's making sure that there is the ability to feel safer, because I don't know that for myself and many of my friends that express, we don't actually know what feeling truly safe feels like. So we look for safer spaces. We look for spaces to where we can be in community with one another. We can share love and history, celebrate our successes, mourn our losses, and learn lessons to where that we can each help one another be better.
So it's 2022, and we've seen so much change. There are many Oklahomans who will never have had to live in the space of trying to understand full safety, relaxation simply can't be, it can't happen, it can't be experienced. Can you say a little bit about that for those who may not have been in your shoes before?
2022, and we're still experiencing firsts in many communities.
Mm-hmm.
We celebrate that, yes, this is a historic moment. This person has achieved this. But really in 2022, should we really still be there where something is happening for the first time in a place where it's supposed to be a melting pot?
Mm-hmm.
What that looks like, it's almost sometimes melting pot and saying living in a space with diversity. It's an oxymoron because it's certainly not inclusive. Some of our practices and our constructs are hypocritical because they don't include everyone as they should. And so for every person of color, BIPOC, queer person, marginalized, poor, Muslim, Jewish, we know that being in those spaces, there is a commonality. We all understand what it feels like to not have space, to not fit in, and to feel the subtle tinge of oppression. And it be served in such a very nice and polite manner. So I don't know that there are many, even in this day and age, if you are in melanated skin, that will say they haven't experienced the same things that our parents and grandparents and great-grandparents and ancestors have dealt with. Now, I do believe that there may be a paradigm shift for some of our white allies and accomplices. That's not always a positive thing. Sometimes they forget or they are unaware that many things are still the same because their lens is very different. And that's not spoken of.
They don't see what they don't see.
They don't see what they don't see.
Something that I know about you that you just spoke about is that you not only see all the aspects of you and the backgrounds and the heritage of your ancestry and the spaces that they lived in, but you also actively try to work to support, advocate for, and help sustain other spaces besides your own. That seems important to you right here in Oklahoma, where it's possible for groups to not be very connected to each other. But it sounds like you really recognize other people have some similar aspects of the type of difficulties that the communities you belong to have.
It's very instinctive for me. Maybe from my life experiences, My parents always taught me that was obligatory to make sure that there are inclusive spaces. I remember my Aunt Clara, the late, great Clara Looper Wilson, who said that we have to get to a place to where we are accepting and welcoming to those that are coming into the fold to help us hold the line. And I try to remember that. But I know that my oppression, as well as my liberation, is bound in the liberation of other marginalized persons. And they're not always, or don't always identify as African American, as a Black person, as a person who literally is marginalized. So many things have been taken right here in this geographical space. The land, and then lives were stolen to come and maintain and sustain the land. So there is no way to really do this type of work in my mind and not be inclusive of those who have been oppressed alongside you.
Sure. You used that term, holding the line, a minute ago. And it seems to me that goes a lot along with the idea of sustainability, because the point is keeping it over time. What do you feel are the pressing issues that Black communities in Oklahoma face today, right now, such as the absence of them in various systems, like legal and judicial systems and educational systems?
There is an absence of Blackness and Black culture that is so prominent in Oklahoma. And it's intentional and deliberate. When Black people have ascertained wealth, community, status, and have been sustainable, there were bombs sent. There were fires set. There were lives taken. And many of us know about what happened in Black Wall Street or the Greenwood communities. But the same types of things happened right here in the area that we're actually sitting, which was referred to as Deep Deuce. Because of the fear, because of the understanding of the lengths and the vitriol and the hatred and the violence that those that did not want Black people to rise would go to. They didn't have to bomb Deep Deuce. They set a few fires. They used intimidation, which is still used today. And they forced out those families into some spaces here within the Oklahoma City, Northeast Oklahoma City area. But we lost a lot of our family members and friends and ancestors to other places because they did not want to continue to exist in a space that literally was created for Black and brown people to actually be. Oklahoma was actually going to be named Oklalusa, which means land of the Black man. And it was changed to Oklahoma for whichever reason, which means land of the natives or land of the red man. And so even that is a form of erasure. Certainly always stand in honor and acknowledge the contributions of our indigenous folk, but there's so much anti-Blackness that even comes from indigenous communities and Native Americans. Many are doing the work to acknowledge and change that, but Blackness is something that has always been erased, has always been somehow feared and unappreciated, no matter the contribution that we have given to this state and to this country.
And in this state itself, it sounds like from our history, there have been moments where the Black community has had hope and excitement about growth and opportunity and change, and the wealth and vibrance of Deep Deuce, the incredible wealth and vibrance of Greenwood. And 100 years later, we can barely see signs of that initial history, which really does speak to the opposite of sustainability. Erasure means we drive through an area of town and we see none of the history there, none of that success, none of the feeling of hope and promise for the future. How do we restore those things and create and sustain that space for Black communities now? What would that look like?
We would see a reduction in gentrification.
Hmm.
We would see intentional financial support and resources that are poured into communities without these absurd strings. There would be less of a need for absolution of white guilt if the intentions were truly to support and allow communities that literally sustained white life and white communities by nursing, help birth, raising and rearing of children by the people that you entrusted to do that. I mean, if they wanted it to be sustainable, they would just recognize that surely if Black people, especially Black women, birthed creation, we should be trusted enough to sustain it. And we've always been inclusive. I think for me, sometimes I felt like we've almost been overly forgiving, never forgetful, because the pain and the awareness is always there. But there should be a lot more checks written. Reparations should not be considered an offensive or word attached to someone trying to be greedy or selfish, from a people who've always been amazingly selfless. So sustainability would also mean that we would have land and we would be permitted to teach history accurately in schools. Our voices would be amplified. Our seniors wouldn't have to worry about predatory practices coming in and stealing their homes to again remove generational wealth. They would be able to come into, our elders would be able to come into schools and work with young people and teach them how to garden. Because food sustainability is something that we're all going to need. We would be able to partner with other communities like our indigenous folk and industrialize areas to where we are tapping into our water sources. And we'd be more focusing on that instead of fracking and destroying the land. Sustainability actually wouldn't be that difficult to achieve if the true intention was there. It just really, even in 2022, doesn't seem like that's where they want us to go.
It's hard to have that conversation without pushback, without tension. A minute ago, you were speaking about the idea of elders coming into and being a part of the lives, even in school, of our youth to teach them things. And I very much agree with you. That's actually a crucial part of our sustainability as communities, is to keep learned knowledge, tradition, the things that really did work. They worked socially, they worked environmentally. How could we do that better? What are some ideas about space, presence, and not just acknowledgement, but open respect for elders in the communities that you're speaking about right here in Oklahoma City in the metro area?
If we would all just acknowledge the wealth of wisdom and experience that we often disrespect and disregard by not including our seniors, everyone would be the better for it. I have had the privilege of sitting at the feet of my 107-year-old grandfather just to listen to his story, but did not have the knowledge or maybe even the technology at the time to be able to document that so that it could be shared. So if we started podcast, if we started making sure that we recording those histories so that generations far after yours and mine will be able to access that, that would be amazing. And it's not a new concept. It was tribal. It was historical. When we say the word grandmother and grandfather and grandmere and Medea, it was always the grands and the great-grands, really, that were the ones that were responsible for raising the children, while the parents and the village went out and worked to make sure that there was food and shelter and the necessities. If we just went back to the practices that worked and stopped making it so damn difficult to get there, a lot of us would have lower blood pressure. We wouldn't have the health issues that we have because my grandmother taught me if she didn't grow it, she didn't eat it. And they would literally, they would slaughter their own meat, and they would prepare it so it wasn't filled with a lot of the things that give some of the items that we put into our bodies, filled with all of those preservatives, which I think sometimes are probably a little bit toxic when you're using or eating and digesting things that have additives that they also use to clean car motors or put in things to make fuel. That tells me that may not be the best thing to put into the vessels if we want to sustain our physical selves as well.
Absolutely. So it's not just a community. It's not just the basic resources that everybody should have access to and presence in society, but it's this all-encompassing idea of what it means to be well individually, well physically, with access to healthy food and healthy resources, but then also this presence for each other. Hoping that there are some rays of sunshine, no matter how small or big they are. What are some things that you're seeing that are promising in some way about the building and sustaining of Black community here in Oklahoma City and the metro?
Promising things. On 36th and Lincoln, there is a new senior center that is being built.
Yes.
Next to a grocery store, which prices are still too high, and it can be because it's the only grocery store that we really have that's full service. But providing the services and to uplift and have spaces for our elders to have some fun, to enjoy the golden era of their lives, that gives me hope, because I see hope and the fact that it is pleasing to them in their faces, and they share it with me. If other things that give me hope are there are a couple of schools. I think the Martin Luther King Elementary School, Moon Schools, and there are a few that are actually bringing in what they call pseudo, or I don't remember the term, but they have grandparents coming in.
Mm.
A lot of young children
Mm-hmm.
don't have the benefit of having a grandparent for whatever reason. And so they are making those connections and teaching young Black children what it is to have a village, giving them the confidence to be able to step out and not feel fearful.
Sure.
Surely our children deserve aspects of safety when sometimes, unfortunately, children don't make it home
Mm-hmm.
when they've just gone to school. There are programs to where young Black children are receiving scholarship money and opportunities to study abroad,
Mm-hmm.
to learn different cultures. That gives me hope. Many of our institutions of higher learning are making sure that they are giving those opportunities in larger mass to BIPOC students. And it's not based on socioeconomic status.
Mm-hmm.
Hopefully we get to the place to where Black lives do matter, and it's not about the value of what your paycheck is. Your human value isn't decided based on where you live, what you drive, how you dress. Maybe if we really started valuing everyone the same, a lot of the work that we do would kind of be unnecessary.
Mm.
And then we just get to work on loving each other in a very real way.
That's the dream to work on.
That's the dream.
So a minute ago, you spoke about the idea that reparations have never been fully discussed after a legacy of hundreds of years where individual autonomy, personal wealth, personal freedom to move forward in life and do what you want has been taken away. And not just once, but multiple times, even here in this space, in this state. And on the other hand, you talk about the idea of education, access to equity and the ability for students to advance themselves and to take that forward into their lives with more autonomy, with more resources, with the ability to rebuild generational wealth that was stolen. How do those two things work together? And what do they look like in a future where we have what you've described, where it's not about the types of status that we've had, and it's not dependent on the amount of melanin in your skin?
We put civics back in school. We focus on departments that teach real life skills.
Mm-hmm.
I really wish I had been taught about financial responsibility and sustainability.
Mm.
I wish that someone had said, when you get ready to go to college, you're going to start getting a lot of offers to apply for credit. Don't. And if you do, and you're going to use those credit cards, if you're going to max them out, don't do it buying the meals. Don't even do it for books. I don't think, I think higher education should actually be free. This country could afford it for everyone. So if we could make those institutions go ahead and open up the doors and the coffers to be able to make sure that your college students are also not hungry, because it's hard to learn when your belly is rumbling. And your mind won't focus when you are nutrition deprived, when you're sleep deprived, because you're trying to work a job overnight. to be able to be in that space to learn. If we could implement those types of practices, I think that would be a great start. I also think if there wasn't such a heavy presence of competition in trying to learn. Now, I was an athlete, so I enjoyed being athletic. I enjoyed competition, but teaching that someone who is your opponent is not your adversary. If we could shift that, we'd see a lot less hatred and misunderstandings. If our from kindergarten to middle school to junior high to high school to college and even into your graduate programs, if we had more study abroad and intermingling of culture, I think we would see an immediate change. But maybe the powers that be have always been trying to make sure that that doesn't happen. If we would remove the bands on the bodies of people with wombs, and every person, because if you were birthed, and most people were, who are here, you were part of the reproductive justice world from that instance. In Oklahoma, they tell us that it happened during fertilization. And so if we taught how life begins and we appreciated it, we wouldn't see systems that also are trying to govern and uphold white supremacy by making sure that our white sisters aren't able to have control so that they can't get rid of white babies. Because even things like that, they don't really care about how many Black and brown people are populating. They actually probably would like for it for us to stop. In fact, that's another reason for these bans. If we could overturn them, because they put our lives in jeopardy much more than our white counterparts. And so if we lose our lives because we don't have a choice about whether or not we're going to birth life, that's a double win for those that want to reduce the numbers.
So the problems for sustainability go through every system, including healthcare.
Including healthcare, especially healthcare. How many times have we heard Black women and non-males say that we've been treated like we don't feel pain? How many studies are we aware of that were performed on our bodies? And I can't even imagine, and I've had my own health care negative experiences in 2022 and 2021, to where I felt very disenfranchised, to where I didn't have a voice, to where I was very fortunate that I had white allies who were willing to turn over tables and speak on my behalf so that I just got acceptable, decent health care. So how do we make those systems sustainable? It's hard for me to continue even doing this work when my body is protesting against me because my lessons have been you neglect your physical self to keep the fight going, to hold the line, to make sure that your children and your children's children hopefully don't have to do this.
And when your body's failing you in the midst of that work, you may not have the support you need medically to actually heal and be better.
Financially, emotionally, mentally. And we've been taught as a people that there are some things that are negative and they're really not. we said what happens at home stays at home. So they wouldn't go for therapy. They wouldn't reach out and say, hey, I need help on this.
Mm.
So we've got to change those systems. We've got to get more Black people in spaces like within the legislature, within the medical field, within the field of finances, so that we don't still get redlined, so
Sure.
that we can own properties and things like that. So there needs to be an overhaul overall.
So there's a lot of work still to be done.
Still
and
to
I
be
know
done.
you wear many hats in the community, one of which is the head of Black Lives Matter for the Oklahoma City metro area. What are some of the future plans and projects with all of the hats that you wear to include promoting and sustaining Black spaces?
We're trying to give safer spaces.
Mm-hmm.
We're trying to give culture spaces by establishing a community center, but one to where not only can you get the type of training that we talked about, but you also can come in and feel safe to express whatever it is and have an understanding that there are going to be resources there
Mm-hmm.
to help resolve, that there are going to be resources that give solution.
Awesome.
And there are going to be activities that uplift Black joy
Mm.
and celebrate the beautiful culture and people that we are. We want to also have spaces that are very simplistic, that in inclement weather, we can bring in the least of us into spaces where they can be warm and they can have food and access to hygiene and sanitation.
Mm.
And that we can help them get into places where if they want
Mm-hmm.
to have a place or if they want to own properties, that they can. So we want to teach all the lessons and help them sustain what they've learned to get to a place where they understand that Black really is beautiful.
That's terrific. So what are the ways that non-Black members of the community can and should support this kind of growth?
If they have the ability to, let's just be real, if they can
Sure.
donate the money,
Mm-hmm.
trust us that we're going to be good stewards, because we've always had to learn how to do a whole lot with a very little. If we had access to resources, that being money, if we had access to spaces where we could provide these services,
Mm-hmm.
if we had a couple of buses or vans to where we can pick up our seniors and take them to the places where they need to go,
Sure.
and have a space to where we can bring our elders and our young people together to learn about one another, that would be a great start. If we would have our white counterparts who would say, all of my African American friends and family deserve reparations.
Mm-hmm.
If they would move out of the way and not be practice anti-Blackness, not try to uphold white supremacy,
Mm-hmm.
And support the rise, especially of Black women and non-males, we would see a change, and it would make the work a lot easier, and we'd have a lot more fun overall.
Those communities could be working together for the same good outcome.
They should be.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for being with us today. What did we not cover that is important for you to say before we close?
I just always want to say how grateful that I am for the space that I am given. I never take it lightly that I am afforded the opportunity and the privilege to be able to give voice to issues in all of my communities. And my community has always been very loving For that, I am most appreciative. And so I just want to make sure that I say thank you. Bless each of you all indeed. And Ashe, beloveds.
Right back at you. Love you.
Love you too.
Thank you for listening to Thick Descriptions, Elephant in the Room Unboxed. Want to learn more about us, what we're doing to disrupt traditional educational methods? Follow us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, LinkedIn, TikTok, thickdescriptions.org, 405-397-0584.